Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one is entitled "The Sun is No Longer Shining, Earth's Sky Simulation System." Now, as I have detailed in previous articles, there is clear evidence that the sun, moon, and planets we are viewing in our skies are holographic projections. And you may look at the two previous articles. And here I show some of that evidence, and here we see some screenshots taken from video footage, which was taken from an airplane, where you can see the sun projected in the clouds. And obviously it occupies a three-dimensional volume, and in addition the observer could see the sun in the same position as the airplane moved. And that can only be produced by a holographic image. And you may look at Article 395 for more details on that. And here we see an airplane flying right through what appears to be the sun. Of course, it's not the sun, it's not perfectly circular, first of all, but the fact that an airplane is flying through it shows that it is in our atmosphere, and it's a holographic projection. And here are screenshots from video taken by the boogeyman, Andrew. And here he was looking at the moon, but he was looking at the moon through a micro lens or a microscope. And the only way that the moon could be viewed through a microscope is that it is a real image produced by a holographic projection system. And here is screenshots also from Andrew's video, which he took of Mars. And Mars was seen to be fluctuating in the sky at first, and then it turned into a donut. And that shows that it is a simulation, and most likely a holographic simulation of the planet Mars in the sky. Now, the reason why we have a sky simulation system on this planet seems to be that our real sun is no longer shining. In other words, the sun is now too weak to emit any visible light, and most likely all other wavelengths corresponding to more energetic than visible light wavelengths, that is, from ultraviolet to gamma rays. It may, however, still be able to emit some infrared light, which means that it's basically turned into a huge planet at the center of the solar system. The reason for the sun's extreme weakness lies in the invasion of our solar system and the arrival of objects in the sun's corona for the last at least 5,000 years, which drain the sun of energy and draw from it its coronal and chromospheric material. You may look at Article 365 entitled Planet X, the Cause Behind CMEs for more details. The objects are dead or energy depleted stars, planets, and moons. The energy depletion seems to cause these objects to lose the ability to emit light and to lose gravitational influence, so that they even share their outer layers of material until the solid, dense core of the object is exposed. And it is for this reason that I have named them stellar cores, and the system as the Planet X system of stellar cores. These stellar cores come to the sun as comets, and you may look at Article 368 for more details. Because they share their outer layers of material, they are always accompanied by a huge amount of debris and have filled the solar system, and especially the inner solar system, with this debris. The size of the debris pieces vary from dust particle size to very large asteroid sized. The debris pieces will not be spherical, but the stellar cores themselves seem to be mostly spherical. Some may have some odd shape, like some oblong shape, but they're mainly spherical. And they vary in size from tiny moon size, perhaps 100 feet across, to many times the size of the sun. And you see two of these objects here in the sun's corona. You can see this one striped. The stripes occur following the contours of a spherical object. The object is drawing corona from the sun. That's why there's a trail behind it. So this is a composite SDO image. This is a LASCO C2 image. This object turned out to be 7 times the size of the sun. You can see that it's very close to the sun because it's drawing coronal plasma from the sun. You can see some of this coronal plasma is actually in front of the object. And now these images, these satellite images, almost likely much older than their timestamps would indicate, as it is likely that the sun stopped shining by 2011. And you may look at article 390 entitled "When did the sun become darkened?" for more details. Now, the way we can tell that the sun is no longer shining is from the darkness of the sky, which always seems to be much darker right overhead. Well, it's actually darker everywhere, but it's much, much darker overhead. And that is the likely outcome from not having the sun shining. So we have darkness beyond the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is illuminated from within by the sky generation system. So we have a bright atmosphere, darkness outside. When we look straight up, we look through a thinner layer of atmosphere, so we're more likely to see darkness or a darker blue or even a gray sky when we look in that direction. Then when we look across to the horizon, now we're looking through a much thicker layer of atmosphere, so we're less likely to see the same amount of darkness. And in this photograph we see what appears to be the sun shining through a gap in the clouds. There it is. However, the sky around this light source is very dark. You can see how dark this is. This looks gray here, and it looks very dark blue here. And the sky should, of course, always be brightest closest to the sun, and it should get dark as we look further and further away. And this does not seem to be the case at all here. Whatever blue we can see is also way too dark. Now we can also see light here illuminating this cloud, but this is above a gap in the clouds. You can see the gap in the clouds. The gap itself is not being illuminated by any light, so this light is not coming from outside the atmosphere. So it has to be reflected light, and the only source of light we see here is this one. So this is most likely reflected light coming from the source, which indicates the source is within the atmosphere below the cloud, and there's no light coming from outside. Otherwise this would be illuminated here. So this means that this image shows that, first of all, the atmosphere is being illuminated by artificial light sources from within the atmosphere, and that the real sun is not illuminating the atmosphere from outside. In other words, there's no real sun behind this simulated sun source. Now, in addition, as I pointed out in Article 388, the sun is no longer shining. Sun simulators replaced the sun. There would be no reason to place a sun simulation system in the sky above Earth if the real sun was still shining, as the real sun shining would create very bright skies and overwhelm any projection system. If we had the real sun shining, the sky would look much, much brighter. And whatever was illuminating the atmosphere would completely overwhelm this reflection, would even overwhelm this projection which we see here. We'd see very bright sky right around here. So this projection that we see here would be completely overwhelmed. Furthermore, it would be impossible to always exactly match the artificial sun's position with the real sun, so that two suns would be seen very often. The real sun would be yellow and perfectly circular, and the artificial sun not. So people would be able to immediately tell the difference between the two, tell which one was real, and know that we had an artificial light source in the sky. In addition, the real sun's brilliance is the best way to hide the Planet X system stellar cores in the sun's corona, and it managed to hide it for some 5,000 years. So why would there suddenly be a need to hide these objects with an artificial sun? And the reason is obvious. The sun is no longer hiding the objects because it has been weakened to the point that it can no longer shine. I have therefore used Revelation 8 verse 12, which describes how damage to the sky simulation system causes part of the day and the night not working or not being projected, to produce a possible model of the sky simulation system. And you may look at Article 389 for more details. And this is what it looks like. I have divided it into north to south panels, 12 in total, with 6 on the daylight side and 6 on the nighttime side. Now, the sky projection system would not rotate with the Earth. It would always face the center of the solar system or the sun, but the Earth within it would rotate. And so it would see an observer on the surface would be moving past the projection on these panels or these sectors. Now, the lighting would be provided by a fleet of holographic projection satellites in polar orbits, projecting laser light with the correct encoding to produce the computer-generated holographic projection. The sun and blue sky would be holographically projected into each daylight sector by the satellites. The night sky is projected by the satellites onto the nighttime sectors as their orbit takes them to the Earth's nighttime side. When holographic projection technology began, a holographic plate was a necessary part of the process for producing a hologram. A real object was illuminated by two light sources, and the resulting interference pattern was recorded in the photographic or holographic plate. Then, when the holographic plate was illuminated by a light beam at the same angle as the reference beam which created it, the hologram would appear. Then it became possible to simply produce a computer-generated holographic plate so that a real object did not have to be used to generate a hologram. Then it was a simple step to combine the computer generation of the holographic plate and a laser projection system, thus producing a holographic projector, which would then be able to create any three-dimensional image and also a series of moving holographic images or a three-dimensional holographic video sequence. Since there are 12 panels, each sector would show the sun move across the sky for a period of 2 hours in such a way that the two observers in two different positions within a sector would see the sun in the same position in the sky. And this is the sort of thing that I have imagined it would look like, with the images being produced in the space above the ground, but an observer is only able to see one of these images. So if this was the midday position, the observers would only see the sun, the image of the sun above their heads. They would not be able to see the other images. So wherever the observer is, he would see the sun above his head. So in conclusion, the Earth's sky is produced by an artificial holographic projection system. This system projects the sun, moon, and planets in the sky, and possibly also stars if the real stars become too obscured by the chemtrail haze or the stellar core debris coming in. In addition, the sky projection system projects a blue daylight sky or a dark nighttime sky. Without this projection, we would have a nighttime sky all the time. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.